Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you, coming at you with a crafting guide for the new pack Ariel Superiority, which of course is going to contain the new Mage and Odon archetypes. If you're interested in combo guides of how to play these decks, I'm going to link those down below. Check those out because I've already posted guides earlier this week once these packs were announced. But for this video, we're going to take a look at all of the UR cards included in this pack and determine which ones you're going to need for these decks and how many. So let's not waste any more time and get right on into it. Mage Diactoros is one of the boss monsters of the new Mage archetype. This card has a very handy quick effect to Omni-negate any card activation and destroy it, but you do have to control 3 or more different monsters to activate it. Also on destruction, of course, you can summon Medius the Pure, which is the sort of Albaz centerpiece of this set of lore archetypes. So as far as this card goes, if you're interested in Mage, you're definitely going to want a couple of copies of this card in your extra deck, as it is one of your better boss monsters. That said, I think Mage probably isn't going to be much better than Upper Rogue. I think Upper Rogue is, I don't know, it just doesn't really put up any results what I can see in paper play. So I'm just hesitating a little bit on the side of caution, I guess, in calling it Upper Rogue, but it could end up being a Lower Rogue deck. Either way, I don't foresee Mage being a tiered deck. Nerva, the power patron of creation, is actually another Mage boss monster, even though it doesn't have Mage in the name. Of course, it can also be summoned from the extra deck by simply attributing 3 monsters with different types, so it is still somewhat generic in that regard. This has a really handy quick effect to change any Mage monster effect into destroy all cards your opponent controls. So a complete board wipe only on your opponent's side of the field, quite powerful. You could pair this with your other boss monster, but of course, if you have the ability to negate effects, you'd probably rather do that. So the idea is that you would want to have a third monster in play, of course, that would enable the other boss monster, the Mage Diactoros, to use its effect in the first place. So this card, it seems you only need 1 copy of in all the lists that I could find in my research. Again, I think that Mage is going to be an Upper Rogue deck at best. I don't really foresee it being tiered, but it is a really cool deck nevertheless. Divine Serpent Apophis is one of the boss monsters of the new Apophis archetype. So this card can be summoned from the extra deck by attributing 2 Apophis monsters, and that's how you're going to be summoning it the vast majority of the time, by attributing 2 of your continuous trap cards that are treated as monsters with Apophis in the name. It can also reset them, which makes it a very efficient card to get out. And it can also pop cards during your opponent's turn as you're activating continuous trap cards. I almost said spells. No, definitely not. It's continuous trap cards. So for this card, I'm going to say 2 to 3 copies in the extra deck. You don't always summon it as part of your turn 1 end board, but the extra deck is pretty wide open. So in that regard, I think that you really could play 3 copies of this, and even if you don't summon the third, it's just nice to have in case. That said, if you only have 2, I think that you would still be able to play the Odon deck just fine. So I'll say 2 to 3 copies, but definitely leaning towards 3 if you're going to play this deck, in the long term. This is, of course, a more controlled deck, so you can expect to go into grind games where you will use all 3 copies of your Divine Serpent Apophis. Draco Tail, our Thalion, is the boss monster of the new Draco Tail archetype, and it is one you're going to be summoning quite a bit. It's got a very powerful effect to bounce monsters on either field or graveyard. So very similar to Firewall Dragon, in that it could not only disrupt your opponent, but it can also recycle stuff back to your hand. And that's the main way you're going to use it as Draco Tail. So this card is super important to the extra deck, and it's highly recommended that you have 3 copies. You could, in theory, get away with 2, but just know that you summon a copy of this card as part of your turn 1 combo line, so that would only leave you 1 more for follow-up, which there's a decent chance you are probably going to summon it on your opponent's turn. So it's really best to have 3 copies, highly advisable. But if you really want to try Draco Tail and you only have 2 copies, you could make it work, just to try it out. But if you play this deck in the long run, I think 3 is really important. It's an insanely good monster, very important to your combos and to your end board. Secretarian Dragon is a new fusion monster that is actually usable in multiple decks, but most notably, you're going to see it in Draco Tail. It's also a pretty solid option in Branded too as well. Pretty easy to see why. The materials are a dragon monster and a spellcaster monster. And this card actually has the ability to floodgate your opponent out of specifically dragon and spellcaster monsters on the field. So this will be quite handy in Draco Tail and or Branded mirror matches, as well as matchups between Draco Tail and Branded. So it's worth noting that it only stops effects that are on the field. So if, for example, you fused away 2 Draco Tail monsters from your hand, those effects to set cards from your deck activate in their graveyard, and as a result, they would not be negated by Secretarian Dragon. But of course, it is still extremely annoying. This card also has the ability to recycle dragon and spellcaster monsters, making it not only a good disruption play, but also very efficient. Like, you will definitely very much consider summoning this, even if you're not in a matchup where you expect your opponent to be on dragons and spellcasters. So definitely a card worth playing in a couple of different fusion decks. Again, most notably ones that have dragons and spellcasters, of which there are a couple. Medius the Pure is the new monster that is not only part of the Mage archetype, but is sort of the new Albaz moving forward. So this will be usable in multiple archetypes that relate to this card's series of lore, which will mostly include, as is mentioned in the effect, power patron monsters. This card is definitely very important if you are playing Mage and a lot of these, future quote-unquote lore archetypes that are going to be using power patron monsters. You'll definitely want a full play set of 3, ideally. You can still get away with 2. I did find a few builds that were on it in my research, but on 2 copies, that is. They were all playing this card, so I'll say 2 to 3, but I think it is very important to have a playset if you're going to be locked into not only Mage, but also future, power patron lore archetypes. I believe Doomsy is the synchro one that's up next, but definitely a card worth noting for not only now, but the future as well. Archmage Power Patron is a part of the new Archmage archetype, and Power Patrons in general are part of the new series of lore cards featuring Medius the Pure, who of course can also search out Power Patron cards. So this card is going to be pretty important for Archmage decks. You're going to want 1 or 2 copies of it because it is pretty searchable by Medius the Pure. You don't necessarily need a full playset, but with the ability to quick effect fuse and then also add Archmage Spore trap cards from deck to hand is definitely going to be a very important piece if you're building an Archmage deck. The Man with the Mark is the new face monster, pun actually not intended, for the quote-unquote Odon deck, which of course is going to be centered around Temple of the Kings. This is going to be a definite 3 of, no questions asked. You could, in theory, get away with less. I've seen a couple of builds that even only play 1 copy, but I definitely think that you want a full playset of this. It is searchable by the Anubis monster, so that's kind of the reason why you don't necessarily have to play a full playset. But if you're playing like a pure dedicated Odon deck, you definitely want a full playset. I think you would mostly go down on copies if you are including more trap card based engines, right? But this card, of course, is extremely important for the Odon deck. Sets up your Temple of the Kings and is a material monster to either go into Gallant Graded or the Scylla Hat Rabbit. So definitely a card that you'll be needing for the Odon deck if you're interested in it. Draco Tail Malulu is a card that you're going to want to have access to on a lot of your end boards, and it's mostly going to be through Heavenly Spheres, the Heretic card, the link to. You all know it from Dragon Link. Well, it's very useful in Draco Tail as well, and it can summon out the Malulu, which can fusion summon as a quick effect, similar to Faimena. However, Malulu has another effect. When it's sent to the graveyard as fusion material, not only can it set a card like every other Draco Tail monster, it also actually negates the effects of a card on the field. Meaning, if you time it right especially, this card can be a very important piece of disruption as part of your end board. You're going to want a full playset of it, because it's also actually really good going first. The quick effect is not only useful during your opponent's turn, but it can also help you dodge hand traps during your turn 1 as you're comboing. So definitely a card you always want to see, and as a result, you're always going to want to play a full playset. And it's also very important to play a full playset of Draco Tail Faimena. This card is able to go into fusion plays even without access to your spells. By discarding this card, you can go into it as a quick effect, meaning that it's not only going to be important to have as a way to go into your plays on turn 1, but also during your opponent's turn. You can discard this card and then go into even more fusion plays. So that's where a lot of your disruption from Draco Tail comes from, actually from the extra deck accessed via Faimena. So always important to have this card in hand pretty much no matter what, so definitely want to play a full playset. Ketu Draco Tail is pretty much just straight up Rhoda, which is a reinforcement of the army, R-O-T-A, Rhoda. It's pretty much just Rhoda for the Draco Tail archetype. It does have a nice bonus effect that if you play this card going second, it can actually act as another fusion summon using materials from your hand or field, and it does it after you search, which is really handy. So it's kind of Rhoda plus, but it is another starter. Obviously you can just activate this and then add Draco Tail Lucius or Malulu from deck to hand, and then you can combo out from there. To play around Joel and Lockbird, it's pretty much always going to be a better idea to add the Malulu, and Malulu can also dodge other hand traps with its quick effect. But that aside, you'll always want 3 copies in your Draco Tail deck, so you're going to need a full playset for this deck. And that was our crafting guide for the Ariel Superiority pack. Thank you so very much for checking this out and supporting the channel. I really appreciate it as always. If you do like the content quite a bit, please do consider supporting here on YouTube as a member or over on Patreon. Would be greatly appreciated, but just choosing to watch all the way to the very end is also very, very helpful. So thank you very much. Let's move on to our outro where we can thank our YouTube members and patrons. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who've been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.